Yeah, 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 yeah. Huh. Hey honey buns, it's Demi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or if you're just joining us now, welcome! I'm so excited for today's video, huns. I've never ever did a video like this before, and I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to sit down and have a proper chat with you. Not like a Q&A, because I feel like on a Q&A I don't want to ramble too much about one question. So I feel Q&As are quite different to this video. Could be considered as sensitive subjects or more personal subjects to myself. Just over on my Instagram, which if you're not following you totally should be, just for some topics that you would like us to talk about, and I said that the topics would be better if they were more personal. I really wanted this to be like a sit down chatty video, and just for you to get to know me as well. I feel like when you're doing hauls and stuff, sometimes I don't know, your personality doesn't show through as much, and you know, people don't get to know you as well as you would maybe want them to. So I feel doing a video like this, I'm kind of sitting down, you know, I've just got a plain background, it's just so chill, and we can just sit down and have a chat about sensitive subjects. But yeah, if you'd like just more of a chilled video, then this is the video for you. Let's just get into it. Okay, so the first topic that I wanted to talk about in this chatty video, kind of personal video, I'm gonna call like an uncut video. In fact, I'm lying, I don't even know what I'm gonna call it yet. But the first topic that I wanted to cover in this video is divorce, more specifically your parents divorcing, growing up in a split family. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because if you didn't know, I did grow up in a split family. My parents split up when I was 7 years old and my younger brother was 1. So I feel like this is something that I can really talk about. I've had my own personal experience, so that's what I'm going to talk about for the first topic. Like I said, I was 7 years old when my parents split up, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I can't really remember my mum and dad living together. I don't have many memories of them being together as a couple. I don't have many memories of us all being a family and going out together. I don't have them memories. I have memories, however, of my parents arguing quite a lot during the divorce, and my parents didn't have a smooth divorce. It was a very, very tough divorce for them and for me. Being 7 years old, I remember a lot of arguments were involved, a lot of shouting. There was a lot of things involved in the divorce, and I'm not going to go too much into that because I do feel that that's their story, and even though I was in it and was kind of affected by it in some aspects, I don't feel it's my place to completely talk about that. I think that that's their personal story. I'm going to talk about the situation from my perspective a little bit and how I dealt with growing up in a split family. My parents have literally never ever spoke. So since the day they split up, they don't speak to each other. They've never spoken to each other for well over like 10-15 years now. They just don't speak, and I think that's partly because they didn't have an easy divorce. They didn't have a mutual relationship after divorce. They've just never spoke. And for me, the worst thing that affected me about their divorce was the fact that I always felt like the middle person between them, and I always felt like the messenger. And I've still got a great relationship with both my parents. I live with my mum and her boyfriend Neil and my younger brother Brad, but I still have a good relationship with my dad. I still see my dad regularly, so I do have a good relationship with both my parents, which I'm grateful for. I didn't lose any relationships in the divorce, which I know sometimes does happen, but I'm very grateful that I never. The worst thing for me during my parents' divorce is I was 7 years old when they split up, and I would say when they were moving on with their singular lives, I was probably around like 9 by the time, like, you know, 2 years into like fully and settling with new people in the life and stuff. And for me, the worst thing for me was being that middle person and that communicator between my mum and my dad. My brother was always too young to kind of be the communicator. He was only 1 when they split up, so he was really young. He couldn't be that communicator. And I felt like the communications between my mum and dad felt to me because they didn't speak to each other. And sometimes when I was younger, I really hated that, because if my dad wanted us to tell us something to my mum that I knew my mum wasn't going to be happy about, I would worry about that, because I would worry that it was going to fall to me, that I was going to be the one that mum would be in a huff with, or vice versa. So that's something that I hated about the divorce, is being that middleman and that communicating that communication that they had between each other. And I can kind of understand it, you know, they didn't want anything to do with each other's lives, they didn't want to communicate with each other, and all the communications that they were having were with regards to me and Brad, like what time you're picking them up, going on holidays and stuff. But I just personally feel like I worried a lot about that, and I worried a lot about being the communication between them. Arguments would often go between me. If my mum was being funny to my dad or my dad was being funny to my mum, it would all go between me, and I often felt like I absolutely hated that. And growing up I did hate that. But it's not, when I think of my parents' divorce, it's not something that really affected my life or changed us as a person, because I was still brought up so great, and I'm so thankful. You know, my mum did an amazing job at raising me and Brad, and you know, my dad obviously was seeing him on weekends and stuff, so I still had a good upbringing. And I'm not sitting here saying the divorce wrecked my upbringing, because it definitely didn't. I did have a great upbringing. Another thing that the divorce affected was money, and this is something that's quite personal. I've never really spoke about this on YouTube, but it is something that I'm willing to be open about. It's not something that I'm hiding, it's just something that I never really talked about. But growing up in a split family, as you'll probably imagine, the money that your family or household have decreases, because instead of two parents earning and having two wages, you have one. And that's hard. That's really hard for families and parents, because it's really expensive to have a family and kids and house and mortgage. So when you grow up in a split family, you think you've got that one income, and yeah. So the divorce affected my family in that way. And I remember growing up, well, even like still to this day, my family aren't very wealthy. There's a lot of money troubles. No, I think that's just with the divorce. So it was just what happened, because they split up and money was a struggle, and money kind of always has been a struggle in my family. And I've always grown up knowing about the awareness of money and the importance of it, and to appreciate things that cost money. And I've never grew up in a household where it's just been available, or we haven't had to worry about it, because we did, and my parents did have to worry about it. But then at the same time, I was always so spoiled by both my parents. They both did everything they could to give to me and Brad, even though they didn't have the money for themselves, which, you know, I'm so appreciative of. And they didn't want us missing out as kids, and we definitely didn't. We were always so spoiled, and if we asked for something, we got it. So I didn't grow up in like a poor household, and my parents always did everything they could to give to me and Brad. But I definitely grew up in a household where there was money struggles, and it was known that there was money struggles, and would have the conversations around Christmas and stuff that, you know, they couldn't afford to get loads this year, but they always did. That's the thing, like we'd always have these conversations. But then I was always so spoiled, and so was Brad. So that's the divorce subject off. But overall, I would say that I had a great childhood. Me and Brad were completely spoiled. We never wanted for nothing. Our parents always gave to us the best they could, but that was just a few little things growing up that I kind of think did affect me with the divorce. And they are things that I remember being affected by the divorce. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, or the next topic that I wanted to talk about, is bullying and my experience with bullying, if I've ever been bullied. I went to a normal public school, and I definitely wasn't popular in school. I was one of these people who was dead quiet. I wasn't in the popular girl group or whatever. I didn't really wear makeup in school. I was quite chubby. I wasn't somebody the boys would fancy. Really shy as well, so I didn't show my personality in school a lot. So yeah, I had a very small group of friends in school as well. So I remember I had a girl who was my best friend the majority of school, but we did have like groups of friends who were bigger than just like me and her. But the majority of the time in school, it was me and this one girl who was like my best friend in school, who I don't really speak to anymore. Like, I've still got an alright relationship with her, and there's no beef. If I say her, I say hi, but it's just we didn't I don't know, the friendship just didn't carry on after school. I want to talk about bullying and name calling and stuff like that in school, and I don't want to sit here and say that I was bullied in school, because I most definitely wasn't. I hear of stories of people being bullied, and I think it's so sad, and I never experienced anything like that, and I'm so incredibly lucky that I didn't. Appreciate that. I'm thankful for that. And I definitely did get name called, which is more so what I'm going to talk about on my terms of experience. Can I just say as well, which I think this is, I don't know if this is normal or unusual, but a lot of the issues I had in school, or the name calling that I had in school, came from boys. And it was boys that were pricks and boys that were being dickheads in school more so than girls. Like, I don't think there was any girls in school that bullied us or name called us or were nasty about us. Well, not to my face anyway. They can say what they want behind my back. No, or not that I can remember, there was no girls in schools that, like, I felt like personally were nasty towards us or anything. Mainly boys in school that were rude, name called us. And yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 boys in particular that I remember on specific occasions name calling us. I don't know how the situations come about. Well, I do know with one of them. So one of the boys in particular, I had a crush on him through school and I really liked him, but I was the type of person where I would say I had a crush on someone who I'd never even bloody spoke to. It was like ridiculous. But this one particular person, we'll call him Henry. I had a crush on Henry all through school, and I really fancied Henry, and I told my best friend at the time in school, who was quite close to Henry. Henry was in a lot of her lessons, she knew Henry, and she'd actually spoke to Henry. Apart from me, I'd never spoke to Henry, I just liked Henry. But telling her that I had a crush on Henry, and I remember her being like, oh, do you want us to tell him? Will I ask him out for you? You know, like the school banter. And I was like, no, don't tell him. But I don't know. Anyway, I think he ended up finding out that I had a crush on him. I don't know if it was my friend that told him or somebody else, but I don't know. He ended up finding out that I fancied him or had a crush on him. And I remember his response to whoever he was talking to, I can't remember who it was, but his response about me having a crush on him was like, oh, she's a fat whale. And I remember that saying because it stuck in my head, because obviously when you're that age and you're in school and you fancy someone, to be responded to or for them to come back to you and say that, you're honestly like heartbroken about it. Now it wouldn't even bother us, like honestly, say what you want, hon. But then I was devastated about that. The person I fancied, the person that I'd been dreaming about, said I was a fat whale. But there was this one situation which, if my friends from school are watching this video, then they will probably remember this situation. But there was this one occasion where the person that I fancied ended up in hospital. I was quite obsessed with this person, and I remember my best friend turned around and said, well, you know, I talked to him quite a lot, we could go to the hospital, you could come with us, and we could pretend like, you know, we've just popped in to see them and stuff. So me and my friend went to the hospital where he was, which was so weird. What was I going to say when I got to the bedside? Luckily I never even got there, but what would I have said? Like, I'm so glad we didn't get there, because it would have been so awkward. Anyway, we went to the hospital and we were standing in the reception of the hospital, and we're seeing a group of lads from our school walk out of the hospital, and then we were like, oh my god, like they've just left, so it means he's probably got no visitors now. So my best friend at the time decided to text Henry and say to him, oh, are you okay? And just try and get like a conversation going while he was in the hospital, rather than us just turning up. And she didn't mention me at the time, so she was just texting him as a friend. And then I remember she said something like, oh, do you want us to come and see you in the hospital? I could come with Demi, because obviously he knew that I was our best friend. And he said again on this occasion, oh, I don't want the fat whale coming. That happened. After that, I kind of knew that I was never going to get this crush. He did not like me. Whatever I'd done to him, he just didn't like me. Maybe he was embarrassed that I fancied him, because I was like this little fat shy kid who wasn't very popular in school, so he was probably embarrassed that I actually fancied him. So that happened, and I think after that I kind of just fizzled out of fancying him, because I was just like, he's a prick, he's a bellend. Do with him. I did see him once, actually, I'm telling a lie, in a supermarket. I was in my local Asda and he was working there, and I remember he looked at us and literally just like blushed and walked away, and I was just like, prick. That's all I've got to say to you, hun. And then I did have occasions of other people name calling us. I had this one friend in school who I was super close to, a boy. It was the only boy I would say that I really had a relationship with in school. Not a relationship in terms of like girlfriend and boyfriend, just a like friend relationship, because I was so shy in school. I didn't build up relationships with boys, but this one boy was always so nice to us, and he never name called us, well, not to my face anyway, and I don't think he was the type of person to do it behind my back, and he was always just so lovely in school, and we would kind of like flirt, but it was always just like more of a friendship I had with him, and I really liked that, the fact that he respected us as a person and wasn't so quick to judge us. I don't know, he was just a really lovely boy. I'm gonna call him Tom. So yeah, I had this great relationship with Tom growing up at school, but Tom was part of a larger group of friends, and he had a lot of friends in school who were boys, and there was two of his friends in particular who often name called me to him. Does that make sense? Yeah, they often name called me to him, and he would tell us, not in a cruel way, he wasn't telling us, he was just telling us, I don't know, probably just telling us for the crack. I remember I would get really upset by that, but I would never really say anything, and I don't know, yeah. And then anyway, it wasn't like bullying though, they didn't like repeatedly do it, they weren't like being pricks, it was just like they name called me a few times, and it always referred to being fat as well. Can I just say, like, anytime I was name called in school, it always referred to being fat, which I think is so demoralizing. Like, kids are little shit, because you would never, well, I personally would never say that to anybody now, you know. I think it's such a damaging insult, like it can really damage somebody's confidence and somebody's view on themselves, because they might start to believe it. Luckily it never really affected me, and I'm so happy the way I am at the moment, and I'm so happy that I've got the confidence that I do, and that them people who name called us, it didn't like affect us. Well, I was name called quite a few times in school, like I said though, mainly by boys. I never really had experiences with girls where they would be pricks. It was quite a lot of the time with boys. It definitely wasn't bullying, and I don't feel like I could ever class it as bullying, because it wasn't. I was fortunate enough to grow up where I don't feel like I was ever bullied in school, which, yeah, I was like one of these people in school. Like, I wasn't in the popular group, but I wasn't in the, I was just in the middle. I was just in the middle of everything. I was quiet, I kept myself to myself. I had like friends in the popular group, but friends in the, like, you know, not popular group. That's my little story on the bullying situation. Okay, so the next subject that I'd like to talk about in my personal video is relationships, and having relationships, and my first kiss and stuff like that. Didn't have any relationships in school. Like I said, there was people that I fancied in school, and people who had crushes on, but they never turned out to be real relationships. I was in kind of a relationship with this one boy who was like on off fancied through school, but who I on off fancied through school, and I did have like a kind of relationship with him. I fancied him, he fancied me, would split up, but it was never a real relationship. I kissed him once, it was nothing serious. It was just like, oh hi, you're fit, yeah, you're fit too, will we be boyfriend and girlfriend? Yeah, we'll be boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, that's all it ever was. I kissed him once in an alleyway, and that was it. And he was actually my first kiss as well. That was kind of like not even a relationship, but that was a thing I had with someone in school. And then there was this boy Tom, who I told you about earlier, who in school, we were always really close friends in school, and like I said, we did like flirt and stuff, but we were never boyfriend and girlfriend. And Tom, I actually kissed Tom on my leavers party at school. So it was we didn't have a prom in my school when you left like year 11. We never had a prom, but we had a leavers party, and I kissed Tom at the leavers party. And I remember I was so excited. I ran home telling me mum, and I got dressed up specifically for Tom. I like Tom, and I wanted to kiss Tom. Like, that was my goal by going to that leavers party, and I kissed Tom, so goal was accomplished. I also kissed another boy at the leavers party as well, and I remember worrying about kissing that other boy in case Tom was upset even though Tom didn't really give a fuck, but I was worried because Tom was upset that I'd kissed another boy. And then I kissed the other boy first, and then I remember talking to Tom and telling Tom that I'd kissed the other boy, and he wasn't even that bothered. So in anyway, I kissed Tom as well, so I kissed 2 people at the leavers party. What a slut demi. Which meant then I'd kissed 3 people. And then me and my best friend all throughout school met a group of people outside of school up in a little town where my dad used to live, and we met a group of people there who we would go up to see every weekend, and would just go up to see them, and would hang out in the parks, and had this little den within the bushes, and would go there, and we met some really good friends up there. These group of boys who me and my best friend in school was always go up and see. And we were in the park one night and we were playing Truth or Dare, and I kissed 2 people during that game of Truth or Dare. So that brought my kiss up to that brought it up to 5 people that I'd kissed. I think it was like after school, a few months after that, it kind of like fizzled out, and this is when like I kind of lost the relationship with my best friend in school. And then I met Sean, and Sean was my 6th kiss. And Sean was, I would say, my first real relationship. Well, he was my first real relationship. I lost my virginity, Sean, did anything of that aspect with Sean first. So yeah, Sean was my first real relationship, but I had kissed 5 people previous to the relationship with Sean. Okay, so the next topic that I'd like to talk about is drugs and my experience, if any, with drugs. So I have never ever tried any drugs, apart from once I did try to take weed when I was out with a group of people, and I don't really think I did it right because I did absolutely nothing. It was like, it was through a bottle, and I literally had the bottle and like very slightly inhaled it, and that was it. But my experience on drugs, I don't really have an opinion on them. I've never taken them and I've never been involved in them. And I think in terms of weed, like in America, some places it's legal, and I think, you know, if it's legal there and people are doing it, then that's great. I mean, I went to Amsterdam once, and obviously in Amsterdam it's legal to take weed, it's legal to have like weed, and you know, they've got cafes where you can get cookies with weed and that in, but it's never been something that I've ever been bothered about, and I'm always worried that I'm the type of person who would get addicted if I even tried it. So in Amsterdam, like, I didn't even try it. I've got no urge to try it, so I think, well, why would I try it if I haven't got an urge to try it? Opinion on drugs, it was just something that you wanted us to talk about when I asked, and I haven't got an opinion. I've never personally tried any drugs. I was going to say I haven't tried a cigarette, but I'd be lying, I have. I tried one once when I was on a night out, drunk, very, very drunk, and someone had one, and I remember trying it. But again, I don't even think I did it right, because it didn't do anything, I didn't get addicted. And all I can really say on that topic, I feel like it's not something I've got a personal... I haven't got like a connection with it. I can't really talk about it anymore, because I've never really experienced anything to do with it. The last subject that I'm going to talk about in this personal kind of chit-chatty video is bereavement, family bereavement, losing people that you love. This is probably one of the hardest things that I've went through in my life, and I feel like I want to talk about it. I was very incredibly lucky. I was brought up with a mum, a dad, a brother, a grandma, a granddad, and a nana and a granddad. So I've always known my grandparents, and I've had a very good family upbringing. I'd never experienced bereavement until 2016. I had what I would say is probably the worst year of my life, because I had 2 very close bereavements in my family. That was definitely the hardest. Yeah. The first bereavement was my dog Jess, and I know a lot of people won't understand this. If you don't have dogs, if you don't have pets, you'll not understand the connection that a person can have with a dog or a pet. But me and my family got my dog Jess when 12 years old when we got my dog Jess, and Brad, my brother, was 2. And she was honestly just the best dog in the world. She was... And honestly, we got her from the cat and dog shelter, and she was a brindle mongrel. And I've never ever, well, come across a dog as kind, gentle, caring, and funny as she was. And honestly, she was literally like my sister, not a dog, she was my sister. And oh, she was our sister, and she was very much part of the family. And I think if you've got a dog, you'll understand the relationship people have with them. If you haven't, you'll never understand it, because it's not something that can be explained. It's very much part of the family. And in 2016, yeah, it was well, it was like Christmas 2015, 2016 April time, no, February time we found out, no, January, sorry, we found out that Jess actually had cancer in her throat. She'd been struggling to breathe for quite a while, and we just thought she had like a general cold around the Christmas and that. She was like, you know, really heavy breathing, and we took her out of the vet and they'd give her antibiotics, and we just thought it was a general cold. We had 2 courses of antibiotics and it didn't clear up the cold. So in the January after the Christmas, we took her back to the vets, and the vet had then came round after doing some scans and confirmed that she'd had cancer in her throat. This was the first really hurtful, close well, it wasn't a bereavement at this point, but the really hurtful illness that anyone or any hurt, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna class her as a person because she literally was to me, but this was the first like real illness that someone in my family had gotten, and it was just a waiting game, really. I didn't think anything could get worse that year, but it did. In the summertime, August, me, my mum, no, not my mum, me, my dad, my grandma, my granddad Bill, and my brother and Sean were all going to Centre Parks for the weekend. We're really excited. My granddad Bill drove there. And when we got out the car, we were walking to the cabin where you get your key and that for the weekend, and we all said Bill didn't look too great. He looked a bit like grey in the face and he didn't look too well, but he said he was fine. He said he just had a bit of a chest pain, which, I don't know, maybe should have raised alarm bells, but Bill was the type of person who, he could literally have been suffering the worst pain and he would have told you he was fine. He didn't let on how he was actually feeling or anything like that. So we went about the weekend. We had a really good weekend. We were in the pool. Bill was in the pool enjoying it all. He did have a wheelchair for the weekend because, like I said, he was older and he was struggling to walk, and wheelchair for the weekend while we were there just to help him, and we all took turns pushing him around. But we had a really good weekend. We were in, we had some lovely meals together, and we had some great memories of that weekend. And we were due to come home on the Monday, but we'd booked ping pong in on the Monday for what all to go and do just before we went home, because you are allowed to stay around the resort. And early hours on the Monday morning, I woke up to my grandma like screaming out for my dad for help. So I ran down the stairs, just woke up and ran down the stairs to see what was the matter, and Bill actually collapsed in the bathroom floor of the cabin we were staying in. And I remember walking in, and I knew that it was serious because Bill didn't look good, but I didn't know how serious it was. So in any initial reaction, we rang the ambulance, we rang the resort centre who sent their emergency first aider down, and the ambulance came. Me and my grandma and Sean were taking turns to give CPR and compressions to Bill as instructed to do from the ambulance. The ambulance arrived, I would say, within 20 minutes, and they basically came, and then the police arrived, and the police confirmed that Bill had actually passed away and had died. We were never really, the coroner's report came back off the, is it the coroner's report? Off the autopsy, the report come back and confirmed that Bill's heart had just stopped. Like, there was no real reason, it was just his time basically, and his heart just stopped, which I still really struggle to understand, because I don't know, it just doesn't seem real that people can just die and it can just be their time, but it pretty much was with Bill. Like, that was it. Yeah, that was the year that I lost 2 people who were really close, and I'd never struggled with I've never experienced a bereavement before that or anything. And yeah, that was definitely the hardest year that I've ever had. And this is something that scares me a lot, and I think about it quite often, is losing family members, and you think of your life and you think of your life without them. Like, I thought of my life without Bill and I thought I could never ever live, but for somehow you push it behind you, and I don't know, you have your ups and downs and it's definitely hard, but you kind of push it to the back of your mind and get on with life. and then there's times obviously when you'll think about the person or memories and it'll all come back. But on the whole, I feel like as humans we just try to forget about it and push it away, and we're not trying to forget about the person or the memories we had with them. It's just more so forgetting about the pain, I would say, of the bereavement. My experience with bereavements and family loss and stuff like that. And I'm gonna end this here. It's very deep, it's very low. I hope you're okay. I'm okay, we're all okay. We're gonna just quickly put on a happy song to cheer ourselves up. Everyone's fine. That is going to conclude the end of my chatty, uncut, deep, well, it's not uncut because I am going to cut it, but deep video where I just get it a little bit more up close and personal with you, tell you about some life experiences I've had. And yeah, I just thought it would be a good opportunity for you to get to know us a little bit more and just to do a personal video on my channel. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It would mean a lot. And if you've got any video suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And without further rat-a-tat-tat, I'll see you very shortly for another video.